There's something profoundly strange that happens the very moment some Americans step off the plane and arrive in Canada for the first time. They immediately notice the silence. It's not an empty, eerie silence that makes you uncomfortable. It's a softer, calmer, almost meditative kind of peaceful quiet that feels completely different from what they're used to experiencing back home in the United States. And today, we're breaking down the real reasons behind this unique Canadian quietness that so many visitors and new residents talk about, but few truly understand. Before we begin diving deep into this topic, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more fascinating content about life abroad and the hidden cultural differences most people never talk about or even notice. These are the subtle shifts that change your entire perspective on daily life. Now let's get right into it and explore why Canada feels so remarkably different to American ears, and what that quiet actually means for the people who live there every single day of their lives. One thing most Americans don't immediately realize when they first visit or move to Canada is that the country's distinctive quietness doesn't come from a lack of people or activity. It actually comes from a deeply ingrained culture that genuinely values calmness, consideration, and collective peace. In many bustling cities across the United States, loudness is completely normal and even expected as part of urban life. People naturally speak louder in restaurants and on streets, cars honk constantly at the slightest delay, and everyday public environments feel energized, buzzing, and sometimes even overwhelming with constant stimulation. But in Canada, even the busiest streets in major metropolitan areas often feel surprisingly controlled and measured. People consciously keep their voices lower when they're in public spaces. Conversations happen at softer volumes, and the prevailing social etiquette strongly leans toward not disturbing others around you. It isn't shyness or social anxiety, it's mutual respect and consideration. And for an American who's completely used to a louder, more expressive social culture, that stark difference hits immediately and can feel almost disorienting at first. Americans always mention this specific observation when they visit. Canadian streets simply don't sound the same as American ones. There's noticeably less honking happening throughout the day, far fewer car alarms blaring randomly, and you'll almost never hear people shouting across the street to get someone's attention. In large U.S. cities like New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles, you can stand on virtually any busy corner and hear multiple overlapping sound layers competing for your attention. Police sirens wailing past, people having heated arguments, music blasting from passing cars, impatient horns honking, and powerful engines revving. In Canada, even major urban centers like Toronto, Vancouver, or Montreal feel surprisingly organized and acoustically controlled by comparison. Traffic rules are noticeably stricter and actually enforced. People genuinely don't honk their horns unless it's absolutely necessary for safety, and there's an overall slower, more deliberate rhythm to the ambient noise of daily life. This pervasive quietness can feel incredibly peaceful and calming, or slightly unsettling and even boring, depending entirely on what kind of sound environment you're used to living in every day. Movement naturally creates noise, and Canadians genuinely move through space differently than Americans do. Crowds tend to walk in smoother, more predictable lines. They don't aggressively push past others to get ahead, and they rarely run loudly or rush frantically through crowded sidewalks even when they're running late. Even public transportation systems feel distinctly calmer. Subway cars are noticeably quieter because people simply don't blast music from their phones or talk loudly during personal phone conversations. Buses feel measurably less chaotic because riders generally keep to themselves and respect shared space. Add all of that behavioral difference to cleaner, more thoughtful urban planning, significantly wider sidewalks that accommodate foot traffic better, fewer aggressive street vendors competing for attention, and you get a city environment that not only looks calm and organized, but actually sounds calm and organized too. Many Americans who visit or relocate describe this phenomenon as strange but genuinely relaxing once they adjust to it. The reduced auditory stimulation creates an environment where stress levels naturally decrease, and daily life feels more manageable and less overwhelming than what they experienced back home. If you visit Canada during the winter months, the characteristic quiet becomes even more pronounced and striking. Snow naturally absorbs sound waves, literally and scientifically. It softens footsteps on sidewalks, dramatically lowers traffic noise, and transforms entire neighborhoods into quiet pockets of stillness that feel almost otherworldly. For Americans visiting from warm states like Texas, Florida, Arizona, or California, this uniquely calm winter atmosphere feels absolutely unreal and sometimes even unsettling. There are no crickets chirping in the background, significantly fewer cars on the roads, streets that sound muffled and distant, just clean, soft, enveloping silence everywhere you go. It's undeniably peaceful and beautiful, but it can also feel isolating and even lonely for someone who's completely used to constant background noise and continuous movement happening around them at all times. The winter quiet in Canada is something that sticks with American visitors forever. It becomes one of those vivid sensory memories they carry with them. Some find it meditative and healing, while others find it too still and almost unsettling in its completeness and totality. Another significant thing many Americans quickly notice when spending time in Canada: Canadians generally don't escalate sound or volume when they're frustrated or upset about something. Instead of raising their voices or shouting during disagreements or difficult customer service interactions, they tend to lower their tone and speak more deliberately and calmly. Instead of reacting loudly and expressively in public spaces when something goes wrong, they keep their feelings controlled and internalized. Even large-scale protests and demonstrations in Canada often have a noticeably calmer energy and lower volume compared to what Americans are accustomed to seeing and hearing at similar events. And this cultural difference creates a broader national atmosphere where noise itself feels less emotional, less immediate, less intense, and less personally charged. To an American who grew up in a culture where expressing frustration loudly is normal and even expected, this restrained Canadian quiet can feel both refreshing and genuinely confusing at the same time. It takes adjustment to understand that this isn't coldness or indifference. It's simply a different cultural approach to managing conflict and expressing emotion in shared public spaces. At first, the pervasive quiet feels genuinely weird and unusual, almost too calm and controlled for comfort. But over time, many Americans who move to Canada say it gradually becomes their absolute favorite part of living there permanently. The quiet creates a tangible sense of safety and security, meaningfully reduces daily stress levels, and makes everyday life feel noticeably smoother and more manageable. The quiet isn't emptiness or absence, it's intentional design. It's a deliberate cultural construction that makes life feel a little lighter, a little more peaceful, and significantly more balanced. Americans who initially struggled with the adjustment often report that returning to visit the US feels overwhelming and overstimulating after living in Canada for a while. The constant noise that once felt normal suddenly feels exhausting. This shift in perception reveals something important. The Canadian quiet isn't about lacking energy or vitality. It's about channeling that energy differently. It's about creating space for calm in a world that often feels too loud, too fast, and too intense. For many Americans, that trade-off becomes invaluable and ultimately life-changing in ways they never expected. So yes, Canada can definitely feel too quiet and even unnervingly calm for some Americans when they first arrive. But once you truly understand the deeper cultural reasons behind this distinctive quietness, that pervasive quiet gradually starts to feel like a genuine benefit and advantage, not just a surprising shock or adjustment challenge. If you enjoyed this detailed breakdown of the subtle but significant differences between Canadian and American culture, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and tell me down in the comments what specific topic you want me to explore next. Trust me, there's so much more fascinating content to explore about the hidden cultural differences between these two neighboring countries. From healthcare systems to social etiquette, from winter survival strategies to work-life balance expectations, the differences run deep and impact daily life in ways most people never anticipate. Whether you're planning to visit, considering a move, or just curious about life across the border, understanding these cultural nuances helps you appreciate what makes each country unique. So stay tuned, keep exploring, and let's continue discovering together what makes Canada and the United States so similar, yet so remarkably different in countless small but meaningful ways.